We've started this morning working on a plate log, of course 16 foot long, and it measures roughly 13 to 14 inches on each end. And that's going to be the first log we'll lay on the stacked pillars. And we wanted to have, had to have a flat surface on each end of the plate log so it will lay and not roll off the pillar. So we just decided to cut down 3 inches into the log, corresponding, the locations corresponding with the width of the pillar that's going to have to set on. And we have already sawed notches or grooves and then chiseled out this one end. It didn't make any difference how that surface is running as far as going across the end of the log. We tried to get it smooth running parallel to the log. Now we've laid a jig up here that we made. I call it a jig, a guide, or whatever. And we're going to go down to the other end now. And by using this jig, we're going to try to transfer the line or the surface from this end to the other end so that both surfaces on the ends of the plate log are running in the same plane. That keep it from rocking when we lay it up on the pillar. So now we're going out to the other end and show you how we sawed and notched that. Okay. Now what we've done is we set the far end of that jig down to the other end of the log. We set it up on the surface that we have chiseled out. And now Stan is holding the jig so that the top of the board here is, that's right, right there. That's the 3 inches down from this end. And that by doing this, we're able to, as I said, transfer that line, and it runs in the same plane as that line on the other end of the log. That's good right there. Okay, we have now marked the depth on the end of the log, which is 3 inches, and transferred that line in the same plane from down at the other end of the log.
We showed that just a few minutes
ago.
Yeah,
what we just showed just a few minutes ago. Now what we ran into, we realized that we were not going to be able to know exactly how this line up here needed to be cut with a saw, how far down on each side. Well, we just took our jig again and put it back, on the 3 inch line, the 3 inch depth over here, and then pulled it over against the log and got it lined up down on the other end of the log, keeping it in the same plane, and then got underneath. And like he's showing now, we just struck a line right there. We did the same thing on the other side. Okay, I believe, and you may figure out 500 different ways of doing this, but this is one way we want to do it because it's real wet and we can't get a log over there today on the pillars, and we're going to have it pretty close when we bring it over there and lay it on the pillars.
Show them the line right here.
Yeah, right. Now there you've got the line.
The line across, the line here.
Right.
Here's your line, and there's one on the other side.
That's right. And all we got to do now is saw and chisel that out on this end of the log, just like we did down yonder. Okay, let me explain what we're trying to do here now. We're going to cut these notches ever so often all the way out to the end of the log. And I'm using this line that we talked about striking a while ago, about one on each side, coming down and gauging every time to the line. With the saw blade is the bar is 3 inches, so that works out fine for us to get our depth. When I see I've touched this line with the saw and that line with the saw, I get right down to the 3 inches here, then that's where we want it. Then we'll come back and chisel it. Okay, now we've got all the notches sawn down 3 inches and from the top of the log, following the lines that we scribed with the jig. Now Stan is going through with this big chisel, I think some of them call them a spud, and knocking out these sections of the log, and then we'll eventually float the chainsaw over it just a little bit to smooth it down a little bit. And hopefully now, by doing this, we've got the two surfaces, one on each end of the log, that'll be in the same plane, so when we roll it over on the stacked column, it should fit snugly.
The process that's underway right now is squaring these plate logs on those foundations, because as you can imagine, it's very important before you start putting those wall logs up to make sure that it's square. Now these plate logs here that you see notched there for stability rest on these footers, columns, foundation, or whatever you want to call them. And those plate logs obviously it's very important that they are in the right position and stable before you start putting up the wall logs. The process we're involved in right now is cutting a notch here, or maybe 2 notches, to make sure that this log doesn't turn when all of these floorboards and floors and wall logs are put up on it. That's the footing for the chimney. These logs, since they're larger on one end than they are the other, as you might imagine, are not level. So that big 2x4 that you see stretched across those 2 plate logs there is used to place a level on. And then the leveling correction is made in the amount of notching that's done on these logs here that Grady is marking out there. Now is the big test. to see if it's going to fit. Make it fit properly, I'll say.
No.